Hi there, this is Alvin from Dr. Wealth. Today we receive a piece of news that Alibaba is going for a primary listing in Hong Kong. Currently, it is a secondary listing and it is primarily listed in US, right? Secondary listed in Hong Kong. But now they have plans to make Hong Kong a primary listing. So that makes it a dual primary listing in both US and Hong Kong. But what is this primary listing all about? What is the big hoo-ha about it? So just understand that as retail investors, whether is it a primary listing or secondary listing, there are very not insignificant differences, I would say. But for Hong Kong, going on a primary listing in this case would potentially put Alibaba in the Stock Connect program. So what is this Stock Connect program? Why is it important? That is worth talking about in this video. And understand that for PRC investor, which means the mainland Chinese investors, they don't have a lot of investment options out there, right? It's not unlike someone who is in US or in Singapore. There are a lot of investment options. You can invest all around the world easily using just a stock brokerage account. But in China, it's different story because the renminbi is a very controlled currency, right? And a lot of other securities law are probably not as mature and developed as compared to the rest of the world. And that is why the PRC investors are mainly investing only in the A shares market. And what are these A share markets? So the A share market are stocks that are listed on either the Shanghai Stock Exchange or the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Recently, they have a new one called the Beijing Stock Exchange. It is still so new that we don't have much information about it, and whether definitely foreign investors can't invest in Beijing Stock Exchange, right? Whether the locals have any certain restriction, that's still unknown, right? But mainly when we talk about A shares, is referring to the Shanghai and the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. So that are the stocks that are limited to. And even for Hong Kong stocks, the H shares, the PRC investors cannot invest easily, okay? Without a Stock Connect program, right? So that is why the Stock Connect program is important because since 2014, Shanghai, Hong Kong Stock Connect has been established. Likewise, for Shenzhen, Hong Kong Stock Exchange, the connect has been established. So that means that the PRC investors can now buy shares or stocks listed in Hong Kong. Okay, so that is what we call the southbound traffic because from China to Hong Kong is southward moving. And then same thing, foreigners can now also buy the A shares, which are previously only limited to the locals. So now, if you have a Hong Kong Stock Exchange account, right, you can trade Hong Kong shares in that sense. And if your broker allow that Stock Connect to be established, you can also buy the A shares using that same brokerage account that you have, right? So you just need to check with the broker. So that creates the northbound traffic, right, to buy the securities in the A shares market. So via this Connect program, that allows the fund flows, right, and the investors to cross invest in different platforms, different exchanges. And that is why if Alibaba get a primary listing and get added to the Stock Connect, the PRC investors would be able to invest in Alibaba. So you might be wondering, why is that the case? Alibaba is a very notable, probably one of the most famous China companies in China, and in fact, most of the revenue for Alibaba is derived from China. And why do we even make the statement that you mean Chinese investors are not invested in Alibaba? And that is actually the truth. Okay, so let's look at the shareholding of Alibaba. The top shareholder is SoftBank, which was one of the early investor or backers to Jack Ma's empire, and they're still holding a quarter of the shareholding in Alibaba. That makes them the biggest shareholder. And even Jack Ma don't have a big stake, is about 2.25%, right? The rest are just the fund houses. Okay, so you can see that the Chinese shareholders are not significant in that sense. And if we take a look at the region shareholding, right, and of course Japan, where SoftBank is based, is 35%, and then the second biggest is actually the United States, okay, with about 21%. All right, so you can see the majority of the investors are not from China, okay, except probably Jack Ma, right? So it is a case where I do think that it is an oxymoron. You have a top Chinese company that is not owned by their own people, where their own people are paying to the platform, right? Whether is it Taobao, whether is it their e-commerce, their B2B e-commerce like Alibaba, this kind of platform, right? Yet they are not invested. I don't think that is right in a sense. If you compare to a lot of other companies, the A shares, majority of the shareholders are actually the PRC investors. Okay, so with this Alibaba going onto the primary listing, potentially being added to Stock Connect, that means that we can have more PRC investors buying to Alibaba. So the shareholding structure would change. Okay, so that is the significance. They will be asking, right? But that how does it help the share price, right? So that is where we want to talk about this A share premium phenomenon in the market. So you know that there are stocks that are listed both in Hong Kong as well as say Shanghai or Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Okay, so for example, companies like the big banks, the ICBC, the Chinese Construction Bank, the Bank of China, or even Ping An Insurance, right? They have dual listing, one in A share, one in H shares, but they're not fungible. That means you cannot convert the A share into H shares and you cannot convert H shares into A share, right? They are separately traded, even though it's the same company. Okay, so that is how the whole structure of the Chinese market is like. Okay, so there's an A share version, there's a H share version of the same company. Okay, so they should trade the same price, right? But unfortunately, they don't. Okay, and there is this phenomenon where the A share is trading at a premium to H share, even accounting for the currency differences, right? Renminbi and Hong Kong dollars. Even you have converted the currency, the A share is still more expensive than H share counterpart. Okay, so that's called the A share premium. And in fact, there is a the index that tracks this premium, right? A share versus H shares. So as you can see from the chart here, this is the A minus H share premium index, okay, for the past 5 years. And if you see the index is at 100 points, right? That means that the A share and H shares, they are equal value. They have no premium, no discount. And if the price is above 100, means the A share is trading at a premium to the H shares. And if the A share, if it's below 100 points, then the A share is trading at a discount to the H shares. So you can see this chart shows that it is on the upward movement. Okay, in fact, when the market is not doing well, right, when the entire China sentiment is bad, right, this A minus H share premium index actually goes up. So what can we see from here is that A shares, which are predominantly invested by the PRC investors, right, they are the ones that really believe in the enterprises more than the foreigners who mainly invest in H shares. So because of the different groups of investors, right? A shares mainly PRC investors, H shares mainly foreigners, there is these differences in terms of how they value the same companies. Okay, so that shows us that the Chinese investors definitely have more confidence, right? Because they are the customers of all these Chinese companies, right? So that means that if Alibaba have more Chinese shareholders, that could provide some price support to or price stability to how Alibaba share price is going to behave in the future, right? So I do think it is a good thing, right? Because you do want skin in the game, right? The people who really are the customers of Alibaba are also the shareholders of Alibaba, right? They are the ones who really know what's going on. They are the ones who really probably have higher confidence in the company themselves than someone who is not using Alibaba services and located very far away from China and trying to make sense of what's going on via a very tinted lens from the media, for example, right? So I do think that this is a good direction that Alibaba is moving towards, okay? But hold your horses, okay? This is not like going to cause Alibaba share price to skyrocket, okay? And I have my reasons, right? So we can take a parallel, right? Looking at the Alibaba rival, another big tech will be Tencent. Okay, so Tencent has been included in the Stock Connect for many years, right? Since probably 2014. Okay, and if we take a look at the southbound shareholding ownership, right? So it's accounted for about 7% right now, right? Which is not a very significant amount if you ask me. Okay, even after Tencent has been like available on the stock connect for so many years. Okay, the shareholding is increasing, right? Compared to last year, which was just 6%, now it's 7%. So there is this improvement, right? Because there can be many reasons. There are so many stocks to look at. There's also tax regulations, right? And then there's also restriction for PRC investors that are able to buy the southbound stock connect stocks. Okay, like for example, they need to have a minimum amount in the stock brokerages in order for them to buy, right? I think it's almost close to 100,000 US dollars. So not every Chinese investors will have that kind of money, right? So that means that even the accumulation of Chinese shareholders in the company will take some time. Okay, so if we do it to totality, right, this is another angle to look at it. This is from the Tencent shareholding, right? So you can see China is the third largest holder of Tencent stocks, and that's about 3%. Okay, which is not, again, not a big number as compared to South Africa because of Nesper, right, the critical major shareholder, and then US makes up a very big other part of it. Okay, probably via the ADRs over there, right? So that's why I think that even when Alibaba gets on board of the Stock Connect, it will take some time for them to grow their Chinese investor base. Okay, so don't be too hopeful that, oh, after the Stock Connect has added Alibaba inside, the share price will skyrocket. Okay, it's not the case. Okay, we do see some positive movement in the share price when the announcement was made, right? It's up like about 5% at the time of recording. Okay, but I don't think it is going to make a very single short term change, but long term wise, I think it should create some stability for the share price. Okay, so in summary, I think Alibaba primary listing is a good piece of news that finally, after a series of bad news here and there, you want to have some good news, but we also know that Alibaba tend to have this kind of flip flopping, right? Some days good news, Sunday bad news, Sunday good news again, Sunday bad news. Okay, I think investors are very used to it, and that's why we need that stability in the share price, right? Have more stronger hands, the Chinese investors coming in, and the Stock Connect will provide the opportunity to do so. Okay, and but don't be so hopeful. It will take some time for the shareholding structure to change, right? But in the long term, I believe that the maturity of the markets, and then the more right, correct shareholder structure should help Alibaba more than it harms it. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope you like the video. I hope you have learned something more about the Chinese market, because I do know there are a lot of misconceptions. People usually don't go as deep. They just scrape the surface or read some headlines on the news and make a very quick judgment. Right. So I hope I can correct that. And hopefully that also give you some analysis about what this news is going to, right? If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and make sure that you get more educated as an investor and get better outcomes, better investment returns in the future. Right, that's all for me today. Thank you and